ahead. Hey, everybody. Today is Thursday, May the 31st, and you are watching FCN Prime News. I am Tresnay, here to talk all things news, business, and politics. If you are new to Prime News, please note that I am here with the facts. Only the facts. And if you are looking for narratives, fake news, and alternative facts, all in the name of making you feel good about your politics and beliefs and whatnot, well, you are in the complete wrong place. If you're looking, though, for the missing pieces to a story that you may have read or heard somewhere else, which is what we like to call full context here at FCN, well, you are then in the absolute correct place, my friends. You have found your news source. Go ahead and please like, subscribe, and follow so that you never ever miss another report from us. We are on Facebook and YouTube at /The Fifth Column Network. We are on Twitter and IG at FCN_1. And please bookmark our website, thefifthcolumnnetwork.com, where all of our shows, including Prime News, are available to binge watch on demand. You can also follow yours truly at Tresnay on all social media platforms. I'm always on Twitter. DM me, hit me up, whatever with your news stories. No hollers though. That will be ignored. A little housekeeping though before we get into today's news stories. Last week I announced that today, May 31st, would be the end of the first season of Prime News as we head into the hot summer months, and that Prime News will be back in the fall. But the Fifth Column Network has been hard at work and creating partnerships with other organizations that align with our mission and vision. And as a result, Prime News might still happen over the summertime. It may be in a different format. It might be just once a week. It might be, shorter length. Who knows? I'm just really excited for what is to come for FCN1, home of news, business, and politics at the Fifth Column Network. So be on the lookout for any communications or announcements about what is going to happen this summer to Prime News and all of the FCN programming for that matter this summer. Make sure you guys definitely look for that. If you haven't subscribed to our mailing list yet, you might want to do that. Visit our website, thefifthcolumnnetwork.com, to get your name on that list. There's a little thing that looks just like that. So make sure you look at that, put in your name and email address so that we can give you guys all the news of what's happening here at the Fifth Column. All right, let's get into the news for the day. In Bethesda, Maryland, a 21-year-old man died last year in a fire that reached 20 feet underground in a tunnel that spanned 200 feet in length, full of extension cords. And the man responsible for his death is finally being charged. Daniel Beckwith, age 27, who lived at that home, has been charged last week with second-degree murder and involuntary manslaughter in the death of Askia Kafra of Silver Springs. Police said that Beckwith had hired Kafra to dig the tunnels in the basement of his home as a part of a deal with Beckwith. People who knew Kafra said that he and Beckwith got to know each other when Beckwith made an investment in a company that Kafra wanted to get off the ground. The two struck some kind of deal, and Kafra agreed to come to Beckwith's house to help him excavate tunnels and a bunker inside of the home. Look at these photos. Here's a view of a tunnel with considerable amount of cords, electrical wires, and cramped crawl space. Here is a view of Kafra actively digging tunnels in the home, underneath the home. And here's even another view of him doing so. You can see he has on the mask and everything as he's actually digging tunnels underground. In the charging documents filed May 25th, Montgomery County Police said that the reason his office was charging Beckwith with actual depraved heart second-degree murder, it was because of the dangerous hoarding conditions inside of the home. It said Beckwith was, and I quote, specifically aware of the increased likelihood of a fire breaking out and didn't take any steps to move Kafra from the home. Snaking down into the tunnels, the police say in the report, was a haphazard daisy chain of extension cords and plug extenders, which were apparently powering substantial electrical needs inside of the tunnels, according to those documents. They said that the setup created a substantial risk of fire. In the floors above, police described the hoarding conditions inside of the house, including immense piles of garbage and discarded items thrown all over the entire home, including narrow maze-like pathways, which made it difficult to both move within the home and to exit the home. The documents do not explain why the tunnels were being dug, but investigators said that Beckwith apparently engaged in a strange ruse to disguise the home's location from Khafra. According to the documents, Beckwith told police that he would rent a car, pick up Khafra up from his home in Silver Springs, Maryland, and then drive to Manassas, Virginia with him in the car. Once there, Beckwith had Khafra put on darkened blackout glasses that prevented Khafra from seeing where they were going. Right? Beckwith then told Khafra that he was taking him to an undisclosed location in Virginia, but instead he drove Khafra for an hour in the opposite direction to Beckwith's home in Bethesda, Maryland. Crazy. Beckwith said police said Beckwith only allowed Khafra to take the glasses off once he was in the house in the basement. Khafra would work digging these tunnels for days at a time, according to the documents. Khafra was found dead after that fire, naked and charred. The cause of death, according to medical examiners, was smoke inhalation and thermal injuries. Beckwith faces a maximum sentence of 30 years if he is convicted in the second-degree murder charge. He has also been charged with involuntary manslaughter as a result of Khafra's death. Unbelievable, crazy story. It's so sad. But since we are on the topic of folks getting others to do their dirty work, all while putting them in harm's way, a white pastor with predominantly black congregation has made news for asking his followers for a $54 million investment to help him efficiently spread the gospel to as many people as possible. Jesse Duplantis, a popular televangelist, has asked the Lord, his congregation, and hundreds of thousands of people across the nation for $54 million Falcon 7X, a private jet that nears sound barriers, but also has noise-limiting acoustic technology, Bluetooth-enabled entertainment center, and an in-flight shower. Duplantis is the latest preacher raising eyebrows and drawing outright condemnation from critics who say that asking for a multi-million-dollar luxury jet isn't exactly what Jesus meant at all. Did I mention that this would be Duplantis' fourth jet? The first three were also paid with cash collected from his followers. Duplantis is the founder of Jesse Duplantis Ministries, which includes a weekly television program that reaches 106 million U.S. households, according to his Amazon author biography. In 1997, he and his wife founded Covenant Church in Louisiana, just outside of New Orleans. If you've never heard Jesse Duplantis preach, he definitely leans on a lot of black isms, kind of like Ric Flair. Okay, he preaches the prosperity gospel, which says God shows favor by rewarding the faithful with earthly riches. Unfortunately, the message also supports and encourages the giving of money to pastors and their ministries, leaders say, as sort of an investment, but one with a return that isn't received directly in or by the community that's giving the money. Coincidentally, the prosperity gospel preachers have also encouraged their flocks to invest heavily in aviation. In 2015, televangelist Creflo Dollar was widely mocked for starting Project G650, a means of getting a state-of-the-art Gulfstream G650 plane of his own, financed by 200,000 of his followers. The campaign was widely ridiculed online, and Creflo never even got on the waiting list for that thing, which consists mostly of billionaires. Kenneth Copeland, a white guy, another prosperity gospel adherent who has appeared on screen with Duplantis many of times, announced his ministry had purchased a Gulfstream V-Jet that probably cost millions. The announcement on Copeland's site showed him wearing a bomber jacket in front of the gleaming white plane, exclaiming on the website, "Glory to God, it's ours." Lord have mercy. Copeland said that he used to travel with faith healing prosperity preacher Oral Roberts, who flew commercial, and it, I quote, got to the place where it was agitating his spirit. People coming up to him, he had become famous, and they were always wanting him to pray for them and all that. And he said, I quote, "You can't manage that today, this dope-filled world, and get in along a tube with a bunch of demons, and it's deadly," unquote. Does anyone ever recall Jesus not wanting to be amongst the people because of a bunch of demons and agitation to his spirit, and then demanding of those same people to fund his efforts to remain separate from them? Anybody Recall Jesus so narcissistically and self-centeredly, desperately wanting to be away from the people who were looking for prayer, advice, counseling, encouragement, food, healing, rest, insight, or answers? I'll wait for you to tell me. It's despicable. Speaking of answers, it looks like the hashtag #MeToo movement is getting closer to the answers that it's looking for. Yesterday, Harvey Weinstein was indicted on rape and criminal sex act charges. Finally, these charges are related to alleged attacks on 2 women in New York. He is charged with raping 1 woman and committing a criminal sex act by compelling oral sex from the other accuser. With regard to the first woman, Weinstein's lawyer, Benjamin Brofman, said that the allegation was absurd. He says that the accuser and Weinstein had a decade-long consensual sexual relationship that began before and continued after the alleged 2013 incident. The woman, who has yet to be publicly identified, told investigators that Weinstein confined her in a hotel room and raped her. With regard to the second accuser, she is identified as former actress Lucia Evans, who went public with her account of Weinstein forcing her to perform oral sex in his office in 2004. Weinstein's lawyer made a statement that he would, and I quote, vigorously defend, unquote, against the indictment and will ask a court to dismiss the charges. He said the allegations were completely unsupported and that Weinstein strongly denies them. This is a picture of Weinstein's lawyer. His name is Benjamin Brofman. He's a criminal defense attorney and the founder of Manhattan-based firm Brofman and Associates, PC. Brofman is known for representing many high-profile defendants, including celebrities, accused mafia members, and political figures, to name, including P. Diddy Combs in the nightclub incident involving J-Lo. He also represented pharmaceutical entrepreneur Martin Shkreli in his recent securities fraud trial. He's represented accused mafia members. He's also represented Jay-Z in an assault case and Michael Jackson in his molestation charges. Speaking to the Times of London, a publication in the UK, Benjamin Brofman has been quoted as saying this with regard to Harvey Weinstein's case, and I quote, "If a woman decides that she wants to have sex with a Hollywood producer in order to advance her career and actually does it and finds the whole thing offensive, that's not rape. You've made a conscious decision that you're willing to do something that is personally offensive in order to advance your career. Now, however offensive the whole saga may be on both of your parts, that is not a crime. That's bad in many ways when you look at it, but that's been the reputation of that industry since before I was born," unquote. Weinstein is now out of police custody on $1 million bail and electronic monitoring. He is due back in court July 30th. Weinstein is under investigation by police in 2 other cities, Los Angeles and in London. While we're on the topic of investigations, a new study reports that Hurricane Maria caused more than 4,600 deaths in Puerto Rico. Yes, you heard me correctly. Hurricane Maria destroyed the island late last year, wiping out its infrastructure and power grid, yet the official death toll was reported as a mere 64 deaths. Researchers surveyed a small sample of the island and reported an estimated death toll of 4,645 people that have died. That is more than 2 times the death toll of Hurricane Katrina, which has a death toll of 1,833. The research was published online in the New England Journal of Medicine. It's the latest study to analyze how many people died during or after the Category 4 storm. The study was also helpful in that it informed on how that many people died. It was due to lack of access to medicines and or medical care after the hurricane hit. Hurricane Maria caused the longest blackout in U.S. history, leaving the entire island of 3.3 million people without power, including those in hospitals and nursing homes who relied on respirators. Researchers surveyed 3,299 households earlier this year and used those findings to extrapolate to the entire island. They found that 31% reported disruptions in medical services, and more than 14% said that they were unable to access their medications. In late February, Puerto Rico's governor announced that a team of experts from George Washington University would lead an independent review to determine the number of deaths caused by Hurricane Maria amid ongoing accusations that the government undercounted the toll in a preliminary report. The report from them was due in May, but Puerto Rican officials announced late last week that the team requested and was granted more time. My goodness, God bless anyone who lives in a city that is historically or stereotypically black or brown or immigrant-y, if you will, and a national disaster hits. It just seems like help is very super slow to arrive, if that is the case. I'll tell you what isn't slow though. This week, ABC canceled its hit reboot of Roseanne. Hours after her racist comment hit Twitter, ABC's been kind of humble bragging, if you will, about the reboot's high ratings and its upcoming second season was one of the biggest shows in its lineup. But when Roseanne tweeted that former Obama advisor Valerie Jarrett was as if the Muslim Brotherhood and the Planet of the Apes had a baby, that was it. Roseanne was responding to an online claim that Obama had spied on French presidential candidates and an accusation from a social media user that Jarrett, who was a senior advisor and assistant to President Obama for intergovernmental affairs in the Obama administration, had helped Obama, I quote, hide a lot, unquote. Roseanne Barr's tweets came nearly a week after the season finale of the newly rebooted Roseanne on ABC. The show was the highest rated and most watched series of the broadcast season. The cancellation cost ABC $22.7 million, the amount the network booked in advertising revenue from the 9 episodes of the now canceled sitcom, according to figures from the measurement company iSpot.tv. The sitcom brought in an unprecedented 18.2 million viewers with its first episode, and while its finale attracted just 10.3 million, it was still viewed as a win for ABC in the world of declining live television audiences. Viacom has announced that its cable networks, Paramount Network, TV Land, and CMT will be pulling syndicated reruns of the old Roseanne from their schedules as of Wednesday. Hulu and other networks are also taking a step back from the show as well. Sucks for the cast. Roseanne's talent agency, ICM, has also said that it will no longer have her as a client. Roseanne did apologize to Jarrett and to the hundreds of people on her show who lost their jobs as a result, but no one was entertained, not her castmates, not the consulting producer, Wanda Sykes, who also announced that she would not be returning to the show for a second season as its producer, and definitely not ABC. The president of ABC Entertainment, the first African-American woman in charge of a major broadcast network, said that the comment was abhorrent, it was repugnant, and inconsistent with ABC's values, and she was the one who cut the cord on the show. Valerie Jarrett only had one thing to say as a result. She said that while she has people who have her back, her concern is for others who experiences everyday racism and do not. Roseanne Barr blamed her racist tweet on Ambien, a sleeping medication, and Ambien fired back on Twitter that racism is not a known side effect of its drug. Thought that was a good one. And while they're exactly right about that, it should be known that Roseanne's claim that she was under the influence of Ambien has many precedents. The Food and Drug Administration's guidance on the drug includes the warning that, and I quote, "You may get up out of bed while not being fully awake and do an activity that you do not know that you are doing. The next morning, you may not remember that you did anything during the night," unquote. So basically, what is in your heart and in your mind, you're going to do it. On Ambien, you will have no filter. Here's some examples. In 2006, Patrick Kennedy, a then Democratic representative from Rhode Island, pleaded guilty to driving under the influence of prescription drugs, specifically Ambien. He claimed that he remembered absolutely nothing about the incident, which brought public attention to the sometimes bizarre side effects of the drug. In 2011, lawyers for a North Carolina man charged with the killing of 8 people and wounding 3 others during a shooting rampage at a nursing home in 2009 told jurors that he too had been under the influence of Ambien and hadn't been aware of what he was doing. The man was ultimately convicted and sentenced to life in prison, but that's crazy that that's a side effect of a drug that's supposed to help you sleep. So again, racism, if it's in your heart, it's going to come all the way out because you have no ability to second guess yourself if you take an Ambien. Still no excuse for Miss Roseanne at all. Enough about that. As a result of this cancellation, folks are championing ABC President Channing Dungey. Here are 5 things you probably want or needed to know about her. First, she is the first Black woman to head a major broadcast network. She has been at ABC since 2004. She's a Sacramento native and a graduate of UCLA. She was appointed to be president of the network in February of 2016. Two, she has a history with Shonda Rhimes. She previously worked on Scandal, Criminal Minds, How to Get Away with Murder, and Quantico. The movies she's worked on includes The Matrix, Devil's Advocate, and Steel Magnolias. Three, she had previously defended Roseanne's statements. Earlier in the season, Dungey claimed that there were misperceptions surrounding the show, blah, 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 blah. She said that she believed the differing political views of Roseanne and Jackie to address some issues that they were having in conversations at the family dining tables across the country and thought it would be necessary. She's also behind the decision not to air that anthem protest episode of Blackish that all of Black social media is demanding that they air. Number four, according to Variety, Dungey was responsible for the decision to cast the network's first African-American bachelorette on The Bachelorette, Rachel Lindsay. Dungey said that she chose Lindsay because of the overwhelming fan response to her on a previous season. And lastly, you probably know her sister, Miriam Dungey. Miriam played Kitty on Malcolm in the Middle. She played Kelly on King of Queens, and she played Monique in the hilarious episode of Martin titled Girlfriend, where she was Gina's bougie, insincere girlfriend from college that got on everybody's last nerves. Whew, what a story with regards to Roseanne. I have read that other cast members of Roseanne's show are hoping for a spinoff that does not include her. I personally am for that. But while Roseanne's Trump MAGA messaging is happening over here in the United States, the same kind of messaging is happening overseas, and it's happening in one place that you would think that it wouldn't. This weekend, about 5,000 supporters of a German nationalist party marched through Berlin to protest its president, Chancellor Merkel's pro-immigration policies, especially her open-door policy toward refugees. This anti-immigration, anti-EU, anti-Muslim party has been gaining support for years and is now the third largest in Germany's coalition government. But not everyone is into it. They were heavily outnumbered at their protests by 25,000 counter-protesters who did show up as well. This party is called the Far-Right Alternative for Germany, AfD. It was founded as an anti-European Union party by a group of academics in 2013 and then reinvented itself with an anti-immigration stance after their president's decision to open Germany's borders to more than 1 million refugees in 2015. At the protest, German and AfD flags were waved alongside placards demanding democracy, not Merkel-tatorship. Senior AfD lawmaker who addressed the supporters as they set off from the central station said, and I quote, "The rule of Islam in Germany is the rule of evil," unquote. Berliners responded with at least 13 registered counter demonstrations. The AfD, again, is now the largest opposition party following the deal between Chancellor Merkel's conservatives and the Social Democrats to renew their grand coalition. It is reported that AfD has a host of powerful committee chairmanships, but they have so far failed to capitalize on them. The protests were broadly peaceful, with only one minor injury reported amid the heavy police presence. Immigration has always been a hot button issue, and this week PBS debuted a documentary exploring the Chinese Exclusion Act. From 1882 to 1943, it was illegal for most Chinese citizens to enter into the United States. As horrific as a chapter in American history as this was, it is hardly mentioned in U.S. textbooks, and it is hardly familiar with Americans in general. Rick Burns, brother of acclaimed filmmaker Ken Burns, aimed to change this with his new documentary on the Chinese Exclusion Act. It did air this particular week. Burns expressed how vital this story is if one wants to truly understand the history of U.S. immigration as in a whole. The directors claim that the timing is purely coincidental as they have been working on this film for 6 years. The film is meant to serve educational purposes, and as a result, educators are encouraged to hold film screenings in their classrooms. If you did miss the debut of this film, it is available on PBS's website for playback on demand. In a further story, this thing will go a little bit faster. Sticking to the topic of immigration, a new report says that LGBTQ immigrants detained in the U.S. face higher rates of sexual assault than other immigrants who are being detained. Immigrants who are LGBTQ face higher rates of sexual assault while being held by ICE and other immigration's custody. Here's the kicker. The federal law enforcement agency has never published these statistics, and they most likely wouldn't. The only reason that we even have them today is that Democratic Representative Kathleen Rice asked for them. So though LGBTQ immigrants only make up 0.14% of ICE detainees in the last fiscal year, they accounted for more than 12% of those sexually assaulted in their custody. Rice and 36 other House Democrats sent a letter to Homeland Security Secretary Kirstjen Nielsen yesterday about this problem. The letter details that transgender detainees suffered more abuse than others. In the Department of Homeland Security's Prison Rape Elimination Act, it states that there must be individualized custody for trans people. Yet, ICE reported to Representative Rice that as of December 2017, 4 of the 17 facilities in which transgender women were detained were all male, and the rest were a mix of male and female populations, as that was stated in the letter. 13% of trans detainees were placed in solitary confinement. ICE placed 14 people there, and another 25 asked to be placed in solitary for their own safety. This despite the act saying that solitary confinement should be a last resort for the least amount of time practicable. Rice and her fellow Democrats recommend ICE use discretion to release LGBTQ detainees, and that parole and alternatives to detention are used instead. They are ending their letter asking ICE several questions about their practices and to address them in a swift manner. Ooh, that's so crazy. I didn't realize the broadcast today was going to be so immigration heavy. But nevertheless, that's all I have for Prime News today. Do we have any comments on Facebook or Periscope?
Yes, I didn't know that you were ready to speak to anyone.
Okay.
Outside of yourself.
Thank you.
Yes, there's couple comments here. Corian, superfan Corian Gibson on Facebook says he will not be found guilty. I believe that he's speaking about Harvey Weinstein. Sad but true. Don Shirley, superfan Don Shirley says, hello, good people.
Oh, hi, Miss Shirley.
Let me see here. Corian also says, what is he talking about here? I'm saving souls, but you got to pay to be saved. That's funny. He just ruined hundreds of lives. She just ruined hundreds of lives.
Oh, yeah. Talking about Roseanne.
Yeah, and Ambien makes you speak the truth just like liquor. And I believe someone here, staff, was saying historical context. The National Socialist German Workers' Party was the third largest party when their candidate gained power. Just so you all know.
Seemed like it sounded familiar to me. Thank you for that historical context, FCN staff member. That's awesome. I think if you guys watched Monday's episode, I said I would have another story for you guys today with regards to the Kim Kardashian, Kanye, Rhymefest, Drake, Pusha T, blah, 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 blah. Still working on this story. I was discovering another line of questioning today. So listen, it's coming and it's going to be big. I'm going to flesh it all out for y'all, but don't think I didn't forget. That I did forget. I did not. But with that, this is another episode of Prime News. Coming up next, as always, it's True Baller Thursday with J. Is It and the Reggie Mathis. Y'all have any guests on your show today? No guests today, so they're just going to be going in for like 2.5 hours. That's a typical time frame for True Baller Thursday. All right, y'all, I'm Trezane. This has been another episode of Prime News. Thank you guys for watching, and I will see you all next time.